For the news in the English language, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Our major story this evening: shock, consternation, and disbelief across Cameroon and beyond as the death of Anicet Ekane is announced. Anicet Ekane, president of the MANIDEM political party, is no more. The opposition political leader for several years died at a military hospital while in detention. He was arrested in Douala and transferred to Yaounde, where his health continued to deteriorate with very limited medical facility at his disposal, according to family sources. Tonight, we take you to the political life, death, and also the political struggles of Anicet Ekane, who many now describe as a hero and a martyr. And upon getting the news of his demise, our reporters rushed to the MANIDEM headquarters in Bali, here in the economic capital Douala, to get first reactions and the melancholic atmosphere after that shocking death announcement of the 74-year-old. Viewers, that is our lone lead story tonight. Stay with us for details and more. Welcome back, viewers. Thank you so much for being with us. Before we move on to our sad page, we take this other story. Inhabitants of the Kumba locality in the Indian division, we are in the southwest region of the country, say they are in need of quality accessible roads into their village. A 50-kilometer stretch of road that used to be a one-day journey has now become a two-day trip because of its poor state, just as transporting foodstuff out is also very difficult, as Ekane tells us in the report which comes up next.
A commercial motorbike rider finds it difficult to move with the cops en route to Bonji Balwe, one of the villages under the Kome Balwe subdivision, Indian division of the southwest region. This is as a result of the poor road network leading to the village, which is one amongst the 14 villages found under the Kome Balwe subdivision. Before now, the journey from Kumba to Bonji Balwe was just 2.5 hours, but because of the poor state of road, one is forced to cover the 50-kilometer distance in 2 days, passing through 3 corners Ekombe Bunji Junction, 3 corners Bekondo, Big Misaka, Bakumba, Big Ngwandi, all in the Bonget subdivision, before going into Betanga Balwe through Itindi Balwe, then getting into Bonji Balwe. After several difficulties faced with the cops, it will be removed from the commercial motorbike, and the youths will do the rest of the journey on foot with the cops. Sources say since the start of the Anglophone crisis, majority of the inhabitants living within the 14 villages under the Kome Balwe have fled the village for safety, reasons why the roads have been abandoned and almost blocked. At a time when the country is preparing the state's budget, the people of the Kome Balwe are calling on their elite to come to their rescue.
Now let's talk about the banned convention of the CRM political party in Yaounde. In a firm tone, political analysts and political parties have condemned the militarization of the CRM party head office in the nation's political capital. The African Movement for New Independence and Democracy, MANIDEM, describes the action as illegal and part of a larger strategy of political repression aimed at hindering opposition activities. Let's have more with Cedric Chakutu.
In his strongly worded message, Issa Chiroma Bakari, president of the Cameroon National Salvation Front, expressed his solidarity with the Cameroonian Renaissance Movement Party and Professor Maurice Kamto. He firmly condemned what he called the authoritarian tendencies of the current regime, following the intervention of security forces at the CRM head office in Yaounde. Chiroma Bakari denounced these illegitimate acts which he said undermine democratic freedoms, particularly freedom of association and individual liberty. He also called for unity among the forces of change, reaffirming that demanding the truth of the ballot box remains, in his view, the only legitimate way to address the aspirations of the Cameroon people. In a separate outing, the African Movement for New Independence and Democracy, MANIDEM, describes these actions as yet another illicit act by the outgoing government and demands the immediate withdrawal of police and gendarmes stationed around these symbolic locations. This political crisis is occurring within a tense electoral context where democratic freedoms are at the heart of debates. They add that these maneuvers are part of a strategy of political repression aimed at hindering the normal functioning of the main opposition party. This situation, described by the African Movement for New Independence and Democracy, reveals an escalation of tensions between the ruling power and the Cameroonian opposition. The organization calls on the public and the entire opposition to mobilize so as to put an end to what it considers anti-democratic practices. These outings come in the tense political context marked by post-electoral protest and what the authors describe as persistent harassment of the opposition.
Now we talk health. Today, Cameroon joins the world to commemorate the World AIDS Day. Medics in Cameroon continue to raise their voices, urging Cameroonians to continuously check their HIV status, stressing that the disease remains a public health concern despite a drop in its prevalence. They equally express concerns over the fact that young people still are recording the highest number of new infections. However, medical practitioners think there's a need for more sensitization and screening campaigns like the one ongoing at the Douala General Hospital. Lucy Diengo is here, was there.
Acquired immunodeficiency syndrome, AIDS, remains a major public health concern in Cameroon, despite a slight drop in national prevalence since the year 2023. The number of people living with HIV is still high, making eradication difficult. It is caused by
90% of the virus is being transmitted through sexual intercourse. We have other portals like sharp objects, like these people who do drug injections, blood transfusion. We also have mother-to-child transmission.
And the signs and symptoms of AIDS vary.
Once the immune system is weak, if you have tuberculosis, it aggravates. If you have malaria, it aggravates. At that stage now, where you start having from one condition to the other, it means that if you are having malaria, the symptoms of malaria will protrude. You will be having malaise, joint pains, fever.
At the General Hospital of Douala, senior nurse LIMEN Pudenciana says an HIV-positive mother can safely give birth to an HIV-free baby with proper care.
When the women start their clinic early enough, they will obviously be early tested, and every 3 months we test their viral load to be sure that the viral load is low. And when they take it at advice, the risk of transmitting to the children is less than 1.
Under the Universal Health Coverage Plan, all fees for HIV services, consultations, care and antiretroviral drugs have been removed to ease access and to remove the financial burden on patients.
The actual medication that treat it is tenofovir, lamivudine, dolutegravir. The treatment of HIV is not payable; it's actually free.
On December 1st, Cameroon joins the world to mark the World AIDS Day, a moment to raise awareness and strengthen prevention efforts. The Douala General Hospital is running a 3-day campaign to educate the public on testing and treatment.
From the primary stage, it is asymptomatic, because when you look at somebody with HIV might not necessarily know that you have HIV, and that is why campaigns like this are very, very important. You are able to diagnose somebody and test.
Although safer sexual practices have improved, health workers say continuous education is still needed. World AIDS Day 2025 carries the theme Overcoming Disruption, Transforming the AIDS Response.
Now we move on to our lead story. The death of Anicet, Ekane, president of the MANIDEM political party while in detention, has sent shockwaves across Cameroon and even beyond, with political actors and human rights defenders condemning the government's handling of the situation. Renowned human rights defender Barrister LIMEN described Anicet Ekane's death as a national disgrace and a criminal national disgrace, questioning how a sick man could be deprived of oxygen and left to die in detention. For me, Antron Sanda.
Anicet Ekane, a prominent figure in Cameroon's struggle for democracy and human rights, died in the early hours of December 1st, 2025, after being held in a prolonged and controversial detention. The circumstances surrounding his death have raised concerns about the proportionality of his treatment and the mixing of judicial and military procedures. Renowned human rights defender Barrister LIMEN described Ekane's death as a national disgrace and a criminal national disgrace, questioning how a sick man could be deprived of oxygen and left to die in detention. They did not only steal his freedom, they stole his breath, they stole his final moments, she said. Minister Yaounde paid tribute to Ekane, calling him a comrade in the struggle for democracy and human rights, and saying that his fight for democracy and human rights will remain etched in the memories of Cameroonians. Hiram Yodi Samuel, president of the MP3 opposition political party, extend his condolences to Ekane's family and demand the immediate release of all political prisoners across Cameroon. The legacy of patriot Anicet Ekane is immense, and you can be proud of it, he said. Pierre Gaitan, a political actor in Cameroon, criticized the government's response to Ekane's death, saying the Minister of Defense statements raised more questions than answers. The lack of transparency and clarity has led to calls for a full investigation and accountability, he said. The death of Anicet Ekane has highlighted concerns about the treatment of detainees, particularly those perceived as opponents, and the need for greater transparency and accountability in Cameroon. The international community has been urged to take note of the situation and demand justice for Ekane and his family. As the nation mourns the loss of a prominent figure, the question on every lip is what next for Cameroon.
The passing away of Anicet Ekane is such a sad situation. Viewers, that does it for the first part of the news. Let's now move on to Talking Point. Welcome back on Talking Point. Tonight we are discussing the live and shocking death of Anicet Ekane, the president of the MANIDEM political party. Our guest is Charles FONGANG, militant of MANIDEM and a close aide to Anicet Ekane. Charles, we begin by extending our sincere condolences to the biological as well as political family of the deceased. Now, tell us, how did you guys get the information that your comrade had passed on? No, we were told, or we already know that Anicet Ekane died in detention in Yaounde. Can you tell us about the detention condition, because you regularly spoke with him? Charles, we are trying to get from you. Can you tell us about the detention condition of Anicet Ekane?
All Cameroonians know under which conditions Anicet Ekane was.
we seem to be having issues having Charles FONGANG there. We also spoke with a legal mind who is Barrister LIMEN. Barrister, you actually expressed shock and disbelief when you got the news of the passing away of Anicet Ekane. Can you tell us where you were when you heard Anicet Ekane had passed away? We are really having issues there getting our guests in this edition of the news. We have two people on the line. We have Charles FONGANG, who is a close aide of Anicet Ekane and also a militant of the MANIDEM political party. And we also have Barrister LIMEN. The both of them are online. We are trying to get to them. My technicians told me we can now get to Charles FONGANG, if I'm not mistaken. We are talking about the detention condition of Anicet Ekane before his demise. You spoke with him almost on a daily basis while he was arrested and taken to Yaounde. How were the conditions in which he was detained, Charles FONGANG?
All Cameroonians know under which conditions Anicet Ekane was arrested here in Douala and directly transported in Yaounde through very hard conditions, leaving behind his respiratory machines and all his medicines, the tablets he was taking. In Yaounde, he was detained in cells in horrible situation. You can imagine for somebody which health was already in trouble. He was detained in very hard conditions, and after some few days, he could not breathe, and he was therefore brought at the dispensary of SET in Yaounde. And there, in the absence of his respiratory machines, he was given one by the medical personnel of the SET. And since that, you can imagine that you are sick, but you have two gendarmes guiding you with arms, very long arms. I visited him, and I could witness by myself the conditions. You are in a single room with people with guns, by listening to all what you are saying with your visitors, and you are there. You eat what they agree to give to you as food, and sometimes you are allowed to receive food from outside. So the conditions were very hard, very difficult. I can say that those conditions were even horrible. The MANIDEM party wrote to the authorities in order to give us the opportunity to transfer him in a reference hospital where he can receive suitable attentions by the medical personnel, and our demand was not taken into consideration till today. That
Charles FONGANG, Anicet Ekane was brave and very courageous, a brave and very courageous political figure who wasn't afraid to die for his country. As one of his close collaborators, can we know some details he told you about his funeral?
Anicet Ekane belongs to Cameroon. I used to tell us that he believes to Cameroon, not to his biological family. So every time that he has been in trouble, he relied on his political family to solve the difficulties. So now that he's no longer, he asked when he was alive that his political family, MANIDEM and friends, should be the one to really organize the funerals. Yes, the probably is at that level, and we believe that Cameroon is concerned. Anicet Ekane is not is Cameroon, because let me tell you something. He has a words that he always said that if my heart don't breathe, cease to breathe for Cameroon, then let it not breathe again. So his heart was breathing for Cameroon, and now that is not, he remains Cameroon.
Thank you so much, Charles FONGANG. Now let's talk about the arrest, detention, and subsequent death of Anicet Ekane, this time around with a legal mind, Barrister LIMEN, who is on standby. Hello, Barrister. Tell us, how did you get the sad news of Anicet Ekane's passing today in Yaounde?
honestly, I think if you took my blood pressure at the instance when I heard the message, you would discover that I almost actually fainted, because my driver is my witness. I was in front of NFC Bank in Bonamusadi. I wanted to do a transaction, and so when I got the message, I felt a shock. I told my driver to put off the sound, put off the engine of the car. Then I rested for a while before I left. That's the shock it was to me. And the question I asked myself was, did we need to go this far? Why was he in prison in the very first place? You know, before now it was rumored that he died. And it was confirmed that he was very sick. We have our laws, our criminal laws provide for granting of bail during criminal litigations. Why was he not granted bail? He fulfills all the conditions of to be granted bail. He has a non-abort. He is a public figure. He has a family, and he will not escape from justice because the borders are tied. Why don't you appreciate the fact that this man is sick, he needs medical attention, and release him to his family? What offense did he commit? That you came, they kidnapped him from Douala to Yaounde. What offense did he commit? What kind of country do we live in that somebody is actually sick? He is known that he is sick.
Now, Barrister, his close ones say his detention condition was terrible with limited access to proper health care, though the government says the contrary. Can that be described as a gross violation of human rights, Barrister, if that is true?
Of course, it is a gross human rights violation. Commencing from his arrest. What was his offense? What was his offense? From reports you get, they said they picked up his relative. He went there and was bundled, and was swindled, and was kidnapped to Yaounde. And here I see they see somewhere they write judicial arrest. How can they show proof that the State Council of Douala, the State Council of Bonanjo sanctioned the transfer of a Cameroonian from his jurisdiction to Yaounde? It is a violation of human rights. And what was the issue? Because he took side. He took side on political issues. Every Cameroonian has a right to aspire. All of us, we have protected rights. And Cameroon has signed and ratified those international covenants, conventions relating to human rights, freedom of speech, freedom of movement, freedom of opinion. You understand? And in our Cameroon constitution, the preamble guarantees those rights. So why, because of his inclination to a political party, you come and arrest him? Let me tell you, I have two of my clients that, as I talk to you, two of my collaborators are in the governor's office, where they came and arrested Tenfak Jeremy and Tenfak Michel, all workers. They were working at the pharmacy here at Aquanor. They came, discussed with them, then went and came and arrested both of them. Imagine the pressure they put on a family to arrest a senior brother and a junior brother. You take them to Legion de la Gendarmerie, the Gendarmerie Legion, and then in the evening they just came and said that let us bundle them and add with those who march and send them to prison. You understand? Why do we keep violating human rights?
Okay. Thank you, Barrister. Now, before we go, can we see Anicet Ekane paid the ultimate price by sacrificing his life for his country as a hero?
He is a hero. He is. And, you know, he's a hero and a wastage. Wastage because such an intelligent person, such a person who wanted just a change for Cameroon, should give up his life. I don't think there is any other sacrifice that anybody can do than going through what he has gone. To be very honest, I share in the grief of his family. I share in the grief of Cameroonians. Why for any reason should anybody arrest Cameroonians because of their inclination to a particular political party? A party which is legalized, a legal political party, you go and arrest people because, do you know something? To be honest with you, let me try to contain myself because I can say things that I am emotionally broken by what is happening. It's like we have people who sign death warrants in this country without thinking. Yes, people sign others' death warrants in this country without thinking. But there is a price to pay. His blood, he has died, and his spirit will go on all those who took those decisions to lock them up, because some of them are still there. And I think that they should come now to reason that why is Professor Abaji still doing in prison? Why are all the others still doing in prison? What offense, I'm talking as a lawyer, what offense did they commit? What offense did they commit? That you think that it is such a case that needs to go to the military tribunal. Don't have military tribunals in Douala. Military tribunal in Douala.
Thank you so much, Barrister NKAMWAH LIMEN, for accepting to be our guest on the news tonight. And also we thank Charles FONGANG for talking to us. He is one of the close collaborators of the deceased Anicet Ekane. And also Equinoxe Television, through my voice, extends sincere condolences to the political and biological family of Anicet Ekane. Viewers, we thank you so much for being with us. That was what we put together for you on the news this evening. Our programs continue. Equinoxe comes up at 7 p.m. with Sasha Leng. Until tomorrow, bye-bye for now.